this is me, Soraya, with another reading. I've been doing these daily pretty much for the last several days at least, but then, I feel times are calling for it. And the readings have been really interesting. I've seen, you know, when I've done card readings before, obviously I do. There is things do come out, and it's very intuitive and so on and so forth. But very I've noticed an uptick really in that on that side of things, and with more consistent messages coming through, the same cards coming out repeatedly. Okay, so there seems to be a theme, and there seems to be like each day I notice, or each time I go to do a reading, I notice that there's a specific card that comes out each day. So there'll be a theme for that day, a card that shows up repeatedly during pre-shuffles, and so and then I begin to see that there's again like an overriding theme that's carrying the reading or crowning the reading, so to speak. And this one, the flame, is our card of the reading or day, so to speak. Okay, but we'll come back to that in a minute, because that card came out multiple times during my pre-shuffle, and it came out again as a second card in this reading. And as soon as it came out, I thought, okay, this is the reading. So we're going to skip ahead initially to these cards. So the king, the sword, and onwards from there. Okay, so what we have here is, I don't know if you've seen my other readings from these past few days, but the king has come out lots of times as well. And this king represents in the world, so this is a collective reading, it represents, now I'm not majorly fond of this sort of language, but for the sake of this reading, for these purposes, I'm just going to use it for now. Okay, but chaotic masculine energy. This isn't targeting men. Okay, when I say that, I'm very careful because I don't view things in that way, but what that means is basically instability. Okay, it means instability, and instability in the world. Okay, so we all feel that, we see that at the moment. We live in very chaotic times. Okay, so that king at that tilt, the king card at that tilt, is suggesting, obviously, or indicating, highlighting rather, the chaotic masculine energy, unstable energy in the world. Okay, and so next to that you have the sword, and the sword is another card that's came out repeatedly for me today. The sword, which is in reverse, and the sword indicates basically, how can I say it, like things that are hidden, not acted on, deception as well, lack of decisiveness, basically indecision about things. Okay, almost a feeling of not having an uncertainty, not having the information to act, or not knowing all the variables that you need to make decisions. In the context of this reading, again, that's uncertainty. It's a feeling of being held hostage to, not held hostage, sorry, but a feeling of the world's events or what's going on in your life, maybe even individually, making it difficult for you to act decisively at the moment, or to know what to do for the best. Okay, basically. All right, so here we have the shadow, and these two cards, and all these cards are laid out pretty much in sequence. Okay, so because it tells a story, okay, as you go along. So here we have the shadow and the warrior. They came out together, and I always, if I get two cards that come out together like this, I tend to take them, because the top card tends to link with the bottom one. Okay, so the shadow is in reverse, and we have the warrior beneath it. Okay, now the shadow for me in reverse in this context of this reading is suggesting linking to this chaotic energy and this indecision. What we're seeing is the dynamics that are feeding into this. Okay, so we're seeing what is unseen, and this is at the bottom of the deck, this card, the unseen. Okay, which is influencing much of this reading. Okay, the unseen. Okay, things that we don't know, influences we can't see. Okay, it's a time of transition but almost like it's as if we are or going through a process of illumination as well in lots of ways, or the potential for illumination is there also. Okay, but what we don't see is influencing all of this. Okay, and for those of you who follow me on X, you'll know what I'm talking about. So the shadow is in reverse and the warrior is beneath it. The shadow in this reverse position, to me, suggests that the shadow aspects of our lives, or of our collective, individually, of our psyche, is influencing, okay, our ability to, again, see clearly, make decisions, and also the conflict in the world. But we haven't quite got a grip on it yet. Okay, so at the moment it's dominating this warrior card, but the warrior card is beneath it. Okay, and we're gonna, don't worry, this is not as bad as it sounds. Okay, we're gonna be okay, but this is just showing you the influences that are contributing to this at the moment. So basically, at the moment, the shadow is going a bit haywire. Okay, in the collective, it's dominating our actions, and we feel, okay, you may feel, you know, that your resources are being drained. You may feel depleted in that sense, but the warrior, like I said, is peeking out from this. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. We will come back to that because it is important to, this is actually very positive. Okay, this is positive. Okay, because despite the craziness of this shadow, which is unaddressed and unhealed, so to speak, you also have beneath that the warrior. Okay, so it's almost as if the warrior, that strength, that resourcefulness that we have, okay, going back to that, those inner resources I spoke about the other day, it's as if that is almost behind the scenes working this out as well. Okay, or has the potential to do that. So it's as if you're trying to, we may also be feeling at the moment as if we're basically knuckling down, gritting our teeth, trying to get through things. Okay, you know, trying to, yes, things are confusing, things are crazy in the world, things are very, you know, we live in very challenging, uncertain times, but beneath that is the warrior, okay, who is basically, despite all that upheaval and all that uncertainty, is trying to ride the storm. Okay, sorry, my cat is just trying to join the reading there to give his interpretation of the cards probably. So it brings me to this. Okay, so again, this is the flow of the reading, and what we have here, the first card that came out in this sequence was Apocalypsis. Again, a card that's come out many times recently. The Storm, which came out yesterday, many times. The Underworld and the Crone. And as you can see, they're all tilted or in reverse. Okay, now again, this links to the shadow side. This is really an elaboration on the shadow. Okay, these are all cards indicating pretty much the same thing as the shadow. Okay, but they're basically the contents of the shadow, so to speak. Okay, some of the things that you might be feeling. Again, Apocalypsis, so you have major disruption, major change, unexpected change as well. With the Storm, you also have that sense of going through the storm. So at that tilt, we're going through it, we're not quite there yet, we're not quite at the other side. Okay, so we're going through something very challenging. Okay, with the Underworld in reverse here, we have basically, how can I say it, we have fears about mortality, fears about all sorts of things in the collective energy, which is understandable because we have a pretty nasty war taking place in the Middle East right now. Okay, but it's also other things that are intangible to most people at the moment, but which I've tried to highlight on X. Okay, which are in our collective energy. They are, and I think they're intangible, but they are there. Okay, and there are fears about resources, mortality, big questions that are coming up, that are dominating and making it difficult for us, okay, at the moment. They're contributing to this conflicted energy. And then you have the Crone in reverse. Now, in this context, I think it's a feeling of not knowing what to do, not knowing, not feeling that you have the you're not feeling capable, not having the wisdom, or feeling that you're making the wrong decisions about things, doubting yourself, doubting your inner knowing, okay, as a result. So these are all factors of this, okay, the shadow. These are all potential hidden elements, things that contribute, things that are like sort of in the mix of that, okay. And then going on to these two cards, which I've kept to the side. And so these two cards are the river and the mountain. The mountain has come out many times. The river also has come out this in the past few days, but the mountain, as some of you may recall, has also been a big theme. Okay, and I do like those cards together. But the river and the mountain is showing in this tilt, okay, that things are still in progress. As I said with the storm, there's been a lot of tilted energy that's come out, okay. A lot of the cards that I pull at the moment are very much showing like that transition state which we are in, absolutely, no doubt. This is not a time of absolute certainty at all, okay, as we all know. But the river and the mountain is showing that that's the case, okay. Things are hard, it's hard to be in the flow, and it's also a time where things that we thought we were certain of are being shaken out. So again, as I said the other day, sorry, about the mountain, you have someone who's squirreled away trying to protect what they know, trying to protect who they are, trying to protect all they've understood, their sense of reality, all sorts of things. You can interpret it in many different ways, but they're being tipped on their side, okay, and their sense of their foundation, their mountain, their rock, is being brought, basically, if not destroyed, but brought into question, their foundation, their sense of self, all of that. And also, it's not just that, but information, okay, coming to light or wanting to come to light. And that brings us to the unseen again, okay. And this all relates to what I've tried to say, okay, over the past few months. So the other thing here about this tilt is the feeling of resistance, a slight resistance. There's a slight resistance I feel from these cards with the river to let things flow, okay. There's a resistance perhaps to let things flow, okay, and a resistance for change, a resistance to go through this process. People are clinging on. There are people out there who are clinging on very hard at the moment to certain things, okay, and that's because their survival instinct has been triggered, and that's perfectly understandable. We all go through that, okay, we all have that feeling, all right, okay. So that's I'm just making an observation that that's an energy, okay. But there are people who are very much clinging to certain things at the moment, or trying to protect certain things, okay. And again, you can interpret that in many different ways, but also information, I think, is a big thing with the unseen, okay. Again, if you want to see my take on, you probably, if you follow me on X, you probably know what my take on that would be, but I'm not trying to colour the reading. That it could be personally for you, that could be a theme as well, all right. But we are facing a lot of existential questions and issues at the moment, okay, all right. So going back to the top of this reading, so we're going to end on a positive note. So you have the kiss, the flame, and Aletheia, okay. So with the kiss and the flame, lovely message here, okay. The bait is really simple. So you have the kiss here, which is, in the context of this, again, a broad context, because it can mean something different individually, but I think in this context, spiritually speaking, this is about, and with the flame and Aletheia, this is about contact, remembering your divine spark, so to speak, contact with the sacred, trying to hold on to what, with Aletheia as well, it's about truth and remembering who you are, okay, throughout all this. It's about remembering that light. That light to me represents who you are, okay. And I'm very spiritual, so I view this in a different way, okay? But it's to remember also that you're not alone, okay? Remember who you are. Despite all this chaos, despite this as well, okay? There is within you something, okay, which transcends all this and which will see you through, okay? There is something that will carry you through. And it's just to remember, okay, who you are and what your truth is, and to hold on to those things. And to also, I think, with regards to the kiss as well, and the flame and truth, I think these, and look at the flame here. If you actually look at the flame, the diagram of the flame on the card, sorry, the drawing on the card, you see those beams of light coming from the top, okay? And for me, that is, and if you look at the way, look at how that crowns the reading there. Look how that crowns the reading, so that light coming through into the reading, into those places, okay? And just sort of remember that, you know, there is, again, not only the potential for illumination, but that, you know, the truth will come through in the end, okay, at some point, all right? And but also that it's what is abiding as well. So this is what is abiding. This is what transcends all this chaos, okay? It's also an invitation, I think, as well, to actually, again, as I said before, seek, if you feel inclined to do so spiritually, okay? Again, I feel like this is a message of remembrance, remembering who you are, remember your truth, remember who you really are, or seek out who you really are, okay, if you're not sure, okay? But that regardless of where you are in that process, or who you are, you know, the point is that there are things, okay, which this cannot disturb, okay? There are things which this, okay, will not change, okay? So don't worry, you're not going to disappear, you're not going to be broken apart, you're not going to lose yourself in the midst of this chaos, okay? Even if it feels like it, okay? The message is that you will never lose contact with God, with all that is, okay, as well. Despite all this, okay, you're not alone. You'll never lose contact with that part of you, which I think even if people who don't realize it, or maybe call themselves atheists, there is a part of us that we intuitively, and again, you know, it really depends on where you're coming from in terms of your life experiences as to how you might, you know, view these things, of course, but there is something about our being which I think intuitively we feel, again, as I've said before, you know, goes beyond words, okay? And that very few people actually see, that transcends our experience, our day-to-day experience. When you sit with yourself and you're alone, you know that there's part of you that other people don't see, a huge part of you, okay? How many of us feel that with the unseen, okay? And it's not just this stuff, it's also that as well. All right, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to this reading. I'll try and pop on again tomorrow, but I hope you have a good Sunday, if that's the day you're watching it, and have a good week. Okay, thank you.